PAZNIA, a proposed model for the Second Realm Network. Authored by Coordinator Rayo. Coordinator at PAZNIA.com. Liberty Under Attack Publications. Table of Contents. Chapter 1, An Introduction to PAZNIA. Chapter 2, PAZNIA Compartmentalized. Chapter 3, PAZNIA Services and Marketplaces. Chapter 4, Vonu Fest and Other Events at the Free Republic. Chapter 5, The PAZNIA Network. Chapter 6, The Coming Intentional Community. Chapter 7, Get Involved, Join the Second Realm. Chapter 8, In Closing. Chapter 9, Freedom is Yours for the Seizing. In the real world, liberty will be limited for a long time to come to self-liberated individuals and, perhaps, libertarian mini-cultures and free ports. But this is not grounds for pessimism or defeatism. One can forget about the herd and become free, once he exorcises the collectivist spooks from his head. Rayo, Vonu, The Search for Personal Freedom. Chapter 1, An Introduction to PAZNIA. The root cause of humanity's problems, in my estimation, is coercion, herein defined as the removal of free will from an individual by force or threats of force. Many will point at some state institution in particular, i.e. public schooling, but the truth is, what we see manifested today is at least 27 steps of problems down from the root. So, if you're one of those individuals still dangling around the exterior, far away from the trunk, let alone the roots, this book probably isn't for you. At least not right now, and that's okay. We're all on our own individual journeys, and just as each tree in the forest is at a different stage of growth, so are each of us. Therefore, if you find yourself happily consuming the propaganda, media plus TV, excited about participating in the circuses every 2 or 4 years, getting an experimental vaccine for a fake, or overblown, virus, or even as a vehement crusader for the Libertarian Party, you might consider moving along now. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Put the book away, close the tab, and come back later, when it resonates. But in the meantime, we as Vonuans, free market anarchists, agorists, or whatever other applicable label, are problem solvers, committed to living our principles in the here and now, and the only solution to coercion is voluntarism, free will, peace, cooperation, etc., not merely chopping off or manicuring the branches of the ever-growing tree of coercion. If the foundation, coercion, is unstable and dangerous, then, as any good building contractor will tell you, it's probably time to tear down and start over. But setting the tree of coercion ablaze or grabbing the sledgehammers may not be necessary. Rather, just remove the source of nutrients, fiat money, compliance, and its energy source, humanity, and let nature take its course of breakdown, purification, and regeneration. This book and the vision it contains will require you to drastically expand your perspective of reality and what is possible. If you'll give it a chance, it should be quite clear that what we know as the Servile Society is truly the modern-day incarnation of Babylon, the land of confusion, and the realm we find ourselves in is far more fascinating and mind-blowing than we have been led to believe. And further, since we already have a vast network of like-minded freedom seekers on the internet and throughout the world, the prospects for building an interconnected second realm network have never been better. This book will contain a thorough explanation of the vision and these concepts, but the idea is to create our own alternative infrastructure, supply chains, economy, culture/entertainment, and more, built upon the principles of freedom, non-aggression and self-ownership. In both the digital and physical. Our strategy for liberty is the creation of a culture of liberty, a society that occupies its own protected space and implements independent systems of cooperation. We need to create a second realm. Won't you join us? 1a. The Second Realm. I'm not a big fan of reinventing the wheel, so this section will be a brief summary at best, to be extrapolated further in later PAZNIA sections. The book to reference is called Second Realm, Book on Strategy by the Pseudonymous Smuggler in XYZ. It's available free online, or you can order a paperback copy from Liberty Under Attack Publications, libertyunderattack.com/srbook. In that concise guide, the authors cover the philosophical background/context, the various components/strategies involved, and some thoughts on how to implement them. And their credibility within this area is unsurpassed. Not only do the Institute of Cryptoanarchy and Parallelny Polis exist, i.e. parallel society, an actual storefront building in downtown Prague, but Smuggler and the Berlin cypherpunk crew have been on the ground, and in the digital realm, building pockets of freedom for self-liberators of all stripes and flavors to enjoy. The incredibly worthwhile crypto-agorist novella, #Agora, probably defines the second realm best. Technically, the second realm is described as encrypted communication, encrypted currencies, anonymous and pseudonymous identities and untraceable action. For those familiar with Samuel Edward Konkin III and his strategy of agorism, one other way to conceptualize the second realm is the expansion of the agora to include all facets of the human experience, rather than just trade/commerce, namely, living, secure Vonu home bases, a liberated culture, our own infrastructure, internal dispute resolution solutions, etc. These second realms are then protected/defended via the utilization of privacy and security culture principles, using pseudonyms, encrypted communications, vetting of individuals, etc. Other fictional examples that you may be familiar with include Aurora from Alongside Night and Cannonier's Farm from #Agora. The free second realm is the answer to the first realm, the realm ruled by coercion and totalitarianism generally. 1b. Vonu, introduced, defined, and expanded. As mentioned above, for as long as mankind can remember, coercion has been used to control, manipulate, and exploit individuals. It is an unfortunate fact of history. The state uses it to keep their hapless citizenry in line, and private criminals use it to violate the autonomy of their subjects for personal gain. So then, what is politics? Politics is the art and science of managing centralized coercion, plain and simple. That being the case, it's no surprise that politics is undoubtedly a counterintuitive way to decrease the amount of coercion in your life. Would you drink a fifth of Jack Daniels to cure your alcoholism? Engage a couple more prostitutes to assist you in overcoming your sex addiction? What about making a few more trips to Vegas as the means for eradicating that dreaded gambling vice? As ridiculous as those may sound, using politics to alleviate coercion is a far more dangerous utilization of this failed logic. It has more far-reaching, unintended, and intended consequences. People's livelihoods have been and can be destroyed by so-called public policy, the state being the apparatus it is. Mass murder, i.e. democide, the most deadly form of coercion, is always on the table. Thus, the problem that freedom pioneers face is coercion. Back in the 1960s, a man named Tom Marshall, Rayo, resided in Southern California, then a bustling libertarian community. He was a Tech Y engineer, a socially awkward fellow, a marijuana smoker, not much of a philosopher, but a freedom-seeking libertarian nonetheless. Early on, he spent some time at the Nathaniel Branden Institute, a school teaching the objectivist philosophy laid out by Ayn Rand, well, at its core, first by Aristotle, until his first major venture came about, the Free Isles Project. The Free Isles Project spawned out of the Preform and Form zine. The goal was to conduct research on the efficacy of setting up a new libertarian nation and the seemingly endless possibilities for freedom if it were to come into fruition. Rayo said, the Free Isle resident would, hypothetically, have all of the advantages of participating in world commerce while being free from taxes and regulations. Furthermore, a free isle, if it were successful, could be a very effective demonstration of the merits of laissez-faire capitalism. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it was never successful. Hell, it never got past the talking stage. Eventually, the movement subsided after disagreements arose regarding the size and scope of government, the lack of individuals willing to become involved, and the potential ramifications from existing nation-states. As an aside, the latter two are still big problems for libertarian country-building projects today. Thankfully, most of the newer projects are more anarchistic, but the facilitators are often terrible strategists and tacticians. Generally, they fail to learn from history. Rayo, frustrated with the all-talk, no-action libertarians of his day, said screw it, and moved out of his apartment into a camper mounted on his pickup truck. He became a van nomad and began laying the foundation for the most interesting, plausible freedom strategy today. Naturally though, freedom means many different things to different people. Freedom to a proprietarian anarchist means private property, personal autonomy, and peace. Freedom to a leftist means free healthcare, free college, and a massive welfare state. Freedom to a conservative means Christianity, the mass murder known as war, and social insecurity. Language is quite fluid, which is why Rayo and Roberta, his free mate, proposed a new term, Vonu. Vonu is an awkward contraction of the words voluntary not vulnerable and, simply defined, is the condition or quality of, as well as the action of achieving, an invulnerability to coercion. So, with one definition, Vonuans avoid the issue of subjective interpretation altogether. You know coercion and violence when you see it. If you make radical lifestyle changes in an attempt to avoid those things, you are a Vonuan, as you are taking steps to become more invulnerable to coercion, regardless of whether the perceived threat is corporations, the state, or a crime-ridden hellhole. But, early Vonuans also had interesting ways of interpreting liberty and freedom. Liberty, as defined by Funk and Wagnall's Standard College Dictionary 1968, the reference Rayo used in his book, is a measure of freedom within restraints, granted by or through a sovereign power. Freedom, as defined by the aforementioned source, is the widest term, suggesting complete absence of restraint. So, Vonuans say that liberty is the general exemption from coercion and freedom is an absence of coercion. To gain liberty, one utilizes legal interstices, or, as it is more vernacularly known, legal loopholes within the law. And you know what the state does to those, right? If they can, they close them. Damn those gun show loopholes and ghost gunners. Rayo specifically had an interesting take on legal interstices. One of his complaints about van nomadism was that it required reliance on slave tags, i.e. driver's licensure, registration, mandatory insurance. So, in order to hopefully avoid the coercion of the bludgies, you have a license plate on your car, you hand the bludgie your driver's license, and you keep your tags up to date. It's providing a safeguard of sorts, but the terms and conditions may change if they smell marijuana or if the bludgie in question just wanted to beat you for breathing the wrong way. Rayo also had a quite negative stance on utopian fantasies like Encapistan, a free world, or a communist paradise. Therefore, freedom, the absence of coercion, is a utopian pipe dream. Even if the state disappears, there will still be psychopaths, violent murderers, and thieves, hence, there will always be coercion. He pursued the van nomad lifestyle for quite a while and realized that it wasn't enough for him. He disliked the aforementioned slave tags because if you have to ask, and pay off, the state for permission, are you really free? For that reason, Rayo decided that the wilderness Vonu life would offer him the most personal satisfaction and he and Roberta moved into a polyethylene A tent, deep in the Siskiyou National Forest. He continued to publish a few Vonu publications, Preform and Form, Innovator, Vonu Life, and wrote for others, such as Libertarian Connection, the Eleutherian Forum, and Going Mobile, nestled up in his foam hut, under his makeshift tent. His frustration with libertarians and the community at large increased and all he saw around him were controlled schizophrenic, political crusaders. He once longed for Vonu associations, i.e. van nomad mobile communities, agoras, but his inclination to work with others waned like a recent full moon. As I receive more Vonu publications from his time, I hope to find out what truly happened. At this time, all I have is suspicion. He began to pursue troglodyte living and practiced building underground structures, when he mysteriously ceased communication and disappeared. All that remains is a portion of a letter he wrote to his correspondent, I think John Fisher, the editor of his first book, dated February 14, 1974. My thinking has undergone major changes in the last several months on interfacing, alternate economics, interrelations in general. I, too, am becoming very dubious as to the value of all Libertarian Club involvements. We do not intend to use the Libertarian Club in the future as an avenue for gaining non-anonymous friends or associates. But, the strategy he and other freedom seekers pioneered is still just as efficacious as it was before, and even more so thanks to advancements in technology. So, how does Vonu differ from direct action more generally, such as the methods listed on the freedom umbrella of direct action, FUTA? Well, with many of the strategies on the FUTA, you can more or less continue living the same lifestyle you did before, i.e. a 9-to-5 job in the servile society, paying some taxes, etc., and receive some increases in your personal freedom, but with the go-along to get along path being decimated, the piecemeal direct action may not be an option anymore. Vonu, on the other hand, is a lifestyle change. It is a reorganization of your entire life, but the increase in personal freedom is quite substantial, and that's putting it mildly. Examples of these Vonu lifestyles include van nomadism and wilderness Vonu, both strategies Rayo and Roberta utilized, minimalist sailboating, intentional communities, mobile or stationary, vonuing in cities, perpetual traveling, and utilizing ethical enclaves. In the newest iteration, PAZNIA and the overarching Second Realm Network, i.e., the building of semi-permanent autonomous zones, a parallel network. It's worth noting, back in the 1960s, such an idea may not have been Vonu, but, due to changing circumstances, such as the further centralization of basic necessities, i.e. energy dependence, supply chain dependence, empty grocery stores, etc., a little additional risk and exposure is necessary, the overall network relying on the notion of decentralization as a main source of defense. That is, if one must risk their life and soul to participate in the first realm, drastic actions need to be taken now to ensure our survival, in a free network built upon the principles of peace, voluntarism, and truth for future generations to come. 1c. The Model Country. Back in the mid-20th century, libertarian New Country pioneer, Erwin S. Strauss, who is still around, and who still runs the Libertarian Connection, wrote about the idea of a model country in his book, How to Start Your Own Country. Therein, he posits, many find it a rewarding hobby to run a model railroad, or operate model airplanes. These model enterprises have all the trappings of the real thing, in miniature. Similarly, it's possible to run a model country. You need only declare your home to be an independent nation, and proceed from there. From that point, you can have a more or less approach to challenging the established governments for recognition. This ranges from stopping the payment of property taxes and undergoing extensive litigation, time and money in court, on the radical end, to the PAZNIA end. Not only are we not seeking recognition by the United Nations or anyone else, we don't want them to know we exist. The Free Republic of PAZNIA is the newest iteration of this concept, our mission of truly founding the first free country. The flagship is Veritas, but other nodes in the PAZNIA network will serve as cities, but scattered all over the world. More importantly, considering the coercive nature of our world, this decentralized, security culture-minded approach, and the already rather large digital community of freedom seekers, all but guarantee the success of the network, so long as resources, time, and concentration are given to it. In other words, as long as we continue to utilize our generative force of creation to build the second realm. 1d. Comedy and culture jamming, the PAZNIA way. Sometimes, when an idea, ideology, belief, etc. is so stupid or dangerous, the best way to respond might not be with logic, reason, and rationality. No, sometimes, the best way to respond is to laugh at and make fun of it, relentlessly. And the craft of a good culture jammer is that the statist/coercer or coercive society you're making fun of doesn't even know that they are the ass of the joke. They might even share it on social media, thinking they're dunking on one of their ideological adversaries. Secondarily, being angry and pissed off at the servile society all the time is no fun. But having fun is. Laughing is. So as we're building PAZNIA, this parallel network, we're going to have fun. And make fun of the first realm, we shall. First off, culture jamming can be defined as a method of disruption or subversion using similar rhetoric and language to that of the mainstream, servile society. One general example is Simon Jester, from Heinlein's The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. In the book, instead of characters risking their own lives and reputations for speaking out, Simon, that little devil, would do it for them, as they littered streets, bulletin boards, and signs with such media. PAZNIA employs this tactic in numerous ways. We issue our own licenses and permits, we issue our own passports. PAZNIA audio-video advertisements are the best, and General Willie and his compatriots were victorious in the legendary Great Battle of PAZNIA, to name a few. Some of our departments, like the PAZNIA Department of Transportation and the PAZNIA General Bitcoin Fund, have government documents in similar legalese and style, see below. Comedy is also a highly effective way to reach folks, much more than through hardcore logic and rationality. This medium is more disarming to the subconscious programming, allowing a different form of rhetoric to handle the bulk of the work. It's also worth noting that culture jamming likely provides a bit of defense in terms of security culture. Visiting the surface level of the PAZNIA website, an individual or real government might see it as ridiculous if they don't plunge deeper. Furthermore, if an overpaid, bored bureaucrat stumbles across our wellness center, they'll be very challenged to throw the cuffs or fines at the dog for practicing without a license. Hell, again, the apparent ridiculousness would probably, hopefully send them moving along to a different website. In summation, please do consider visiting PAZNIA.com and take a look around. You just might get a bit of a chuckle. Secondarily, visit VonuPodcast.com and search for PAZNIA to find more. 1E. PAZNIA Accomplishments and Future Goals. Accomplishments. The first stage of the PAZNIA vision began back in year 0, 2020, when the homestead here at Veritas first began towards self-sufficiency with lambs and goats. Aura arrived in 2021 and began rapid development on the gardens. Now, we have a few different zones and are honing in on what is most optimal to grow in this area. The flock of ruminants is ever growing. The next big goal is to finish our forever fencing and get the big shed set up to milk and process. High-quality lamb and goat are getting close to becoming a profitable venture. In 2023, we took the homestead corn and soy free. Now, any grains the ruminants or chickens/turkeys get are organic wheat, rye, oats, or malted barley. Local communication options are being explored, with a working option now, a simplex relay, see below. The private PAZNIA map and directory and P.A.Z.NIA list were launched in January of 2024, see below. Late 2024 brought the arrival of the Ghost Station, the expandable tower server hosting a simplex relay, Bitcoin/Monero nodes, the local PAZNIA LBRY, and more. Future goals, short term. Begin work on the public PAZNIA directory to expand the growth and options available to the PAZNIA network. Begin hosting semi-regular meetings on Jitsi for any interested self-liberators. Continue adding high-value health and wellness tools/modalities to the wellness center. Things like a wood-burning, red light sauna and a working rife machine. Mid to long term. When PAZNIA funds grow substantially, a dedicated laboratory with some basic equipment for research and development, i.e., mass spectrometer, lab-grade vacuum ovens, and other useful items for the curious-minded. Continue working towards the coming intentional community here at Veritas, and more opportunities in physical space and time in general. There's certainly some missing and some that are classified. These are presented as proof of work and to paint a picture of what's to come. 1F. The PAZNIA Constitution/Declaration of Independence. At critical times throughout human history, it becomes necessary for one people, self-liberators, freedom seekers, etc., to officially dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. For we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and property over one's body, and the fruits of one's labor. That to secure these rights, humans have foolishly instituted governments, resulting in the democide and enslavement of the many by the few. This is, of course, our present situation. But after a long train of abuses and usurpations, with the intention of reducing all individuals on the planet to lives under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government, or otherwise violators of person and property, and to provide new guards for their future security. And in terms of government, prudence, indeed, will dictate that these monopolies on violence are too dangerous to exist, that the belief in such authority on a societal level leads to the disconnecting of individuals from all things human, most importantly human freedom. Because some fates are worse than death. Slavery. We, therefore, as founding signatories of the Free Republic of P.A.Z.NIA, declare that we are absolved from all allegiance to the communist, fascist United States government, and that all political connection between the two is completely and totally dissolved. The founding principles of PAZNIA are as follows: our Constitution. A respect for and commitment to privacy, the use of pseudonyms is encouraged. Don't hurt people and honor your contracts. A culture that encourages humanity to flourish, rather than degrade and regress. A recognition of the important task ahead of us, to ensure the continuation of freedom into the future, another way for those seeking a way out. 1G, PAZNIA FAQs. 1. What does the name mean? Paz in Spanish means peace, which is the fundamental life principle of PAZNIA. It is also the abbreviation for the freedom strategy of building permanent autonomous zones. 2. What's the difference between PAZNIA and freedom cells? Freedom cells are an organizational model, wherein a small group of individuals, 10, meets/coordinates for whatever purposes they agree upon, i.e. survivalism chats, workshops, firearms training, building an intentional community, etc. These freedom cells together form a network of sorts, but a less organized and comprehensive vision than that of PAZNIA. Further, integration with other freedom cells is wholly optional, whereas individuals/homesteads that join the PAZNIA network will do so with the purpose of being a part of it, whether as a node for fellow self-liberators or as, say, a partner in the seed exchange. 3. What is security culture? Security culture is the direct application of the right to privacy. 4. Why do you encourage the use of pseudonyms? The civil society/first realm is becoming more and more unsafe for self-liberators/free thinkers. A pseudonym provides you with the ability to maintain additional privacy/anonymity while still building up a reputation of sorts, separate from your chosen/give names. 5. What are the requirements for visiting/becoming a PAZNIAN? All visitors must be vetted according to internal procedures of the PAZNIA Department of Freedom. Anyone can become an honorary SDA holder, but founding SDA holders must be vetted/approved. We appreciate support from anyone, anywhere, but have to do things this way to ensure these second realms are maintained. 6. Do the passports look authentic? Will they work for international travel? The passports look strikingly legitimate and have been used to purchase age-restricted items in the USSA from a gas station. That said, they are for culture jamming purposes. No further uses are intended, though appreciated. Let us know. 7. What is the current situation at Veritas, PAZNIA? As of the time of writing, spring, year 5 2025, the homestead here at Veritas is expanding. Aura maintains a few different gardens, and I tend to the chickens and turkeys, and our ever-growing flock of sheep and goats. We built a pond on the property end of year 3, 2023, and it is now essentially filled, awaiting some bass and bluegill for a stock of fish, another resource. Electro-horticulture experimentation is going swell, and we now have an Ormus/monoatomic harvesting setup. Events at Veritas continue throughout the year, this year being VanuFest 6, the 6th annual, premier gathering of liberation in the second realm. Finally, the intentional community on the property is finally coming into view. Lots more to come. 8. What is the overall/long-term goal/plan for PAZNIA? For the entire PAZNIA network, the continued development of the PAZNIA map and directory as an incredible resource for living exclusively in our parallel network, the further building out of technology, i.e. local mesh networks, local communications, and sovereign infrastructure in all areas of need and desire. For Veritas specifically, an intentional community on the property with the appropriate number of families/individuals, as well as the overarching integration into the second realm/PAZNIA network. 9. What is the significance of the Veritas part of the above question? Veritas is the first free second realm, outpost /city, in the first free country, PAZNIA. 10. How do I build a PAZNIA of my own? Declare your independence from whatever authoritarian jurisdiction you find yourself in and start building an autonomous zone upon a foundation of peace and voluntarism. Beyond that, get creative and think big. No, bigger. The only limitations in this realm are your imagination. Please feel free to use Veritas or other nodes for inspiration. advanced technology makes Vonu attractive, contemporary weaponry and coercive institutions make Vonu imperative. In earlier times government provided order if not freedom and defense if not peace. But now, when nuclear and bacteriological weapons can be rocketed or smuggled to any city on Earth, governments are as obsolete as moats and parapets. The contemporary state is not only incapable of protecting its citizens from outside aggressors, it has become the biggest aggressor with its endless taxes, conscriptions, and interferences. The state provides justice by mass terror, freedom by mass servitude, and defense by mass murder. Rayo, Vonu Life, March 1973. Chapter 2, PAZNIA Compartmentalized. 2a. The PAZNIA Department of Freedom. Established in Article 333,555,777, Section 33 of the PAZNIA Constitution, the team's role is to contribute to the building and maintenance of this free republic here at Veritas. The coordinator shall be Commander-in-Chief of the defensive powers of Naomi Defense LLC, and of Willie II, the Goat Tank. In exercise of his, or her, duties, the aforementioned coordinator may require the expert opinion, insight, or otherwise hire advice of principled ambassadors and liaisons within the self-liberator's paradise. The coordinator, in concert with the ambassador of the Department of Freedom, has the power to grant or rescind PAZNIA diplomatic passports, immunity passports, and any other official Department of No state documentation that may be necessary in the future. Finally, provision shall be made for the future construction of the Great Wall of PAZNIA and other measures, incumbent upon approval by the local Committee of Safety. The PAZNIA Department of Freedom, DOF, sits at the top of this fake, wholly invented hierarchy of departments at Veritas, founded and maintained by the PAZNIA/Second Realm Coordinator, yet another fake, made-up title, as well as the ambassador to the DOF. These individuals, in addition to the No State Department, are responsible for coming up with proper vetting procedures, the issuance and creation of various forms of PAZNIA identification, such as passports, IDs, etc., and are even tasked with the role of calendar management, vis-a-vis the Office of Calendar Management. We are currently in the process of selecting a new way of keeping time outside of the nonsensical Gregorian standard, whereby mankind is intentionally torn out of balance with nature, its cycles, and the sky clock above. Other roles are envisioned in the future, but these are the main ones at the time of publication. 2b. The PAZNIA Committee of Correspondence. The PAZNIA Committee of Correspondence is the official chat of the Free Republic. The first, public layer is currently on Telegram, and the second, is on Simplex. As part of the forthcoming PAZNIA LBRY, for a full explanation, see below, it will eventually be self-hosted and include a variety of other features, including sub-chat groups by particular geography to help facilitate local trade. I envision it being incorporated into the PAZNIA Department of Transportation, our coming decentralized shipping/logistics network, as well. But, at current, the PAZNIA COC serves as the initial method of outreach and a way for new, interested individuals to learn more about what we're building, how they can get involved, and for pertinent announcements, in addition to serving as a general chat room for developing liberated lifestyles. 2c. The PAZNIA Department of Permaculture. Unlike the monocropping, nutrient-depleting, and nature-fighting method of modern, conventional agriculture, here at PAZNIA, we wish to work in accordance with nature, incorporating permaculture principles, biodynamic farming methods of Rudolf Steiner, electrohorticulture, and a synergistic use of the animal/plant kingdoms, among other items, to regenerate and build up the land. We are constantly looking for new ways to assist us in these goals, such as using basalt rock dust and monoatomics to improve the energetics, pH, of the soil, incorporating microorganisms to clean up and replenish the surely depleted populations, orgone devices to draw in more of that chi, life force energy, prana, or whatever other word you'd like to use, speeding up plant growth with hydrogen-rich water, adding back fulvic/humic acid-rich soil. And, of course, just using the seemingly endless, good OL animal shit for fertilizer. The end result is happy animals raised according to their species-specific diets, roaming around the beautiful pastures of our nature sanctuary, and nutrient-rich gardens, all providing the highest quality nutrition to restore and maintain the health of all those who visit or stay here. 2D. The PAZNIA Department of Transportation. Title 33, Transportation Chapter 1, Department of Transportation. Subchapter A, Carriage by PAZNIA and Highway. By the authority vested in absolutely no one, the PAZNIA Department of Transportation is heretofore created. On this date of April 20, 2021, the first order of business is to ban the use of, transportation on, and construction of all paved roadways in the Free Republic, except for the exceptions listed in subchapter B, below. Roads are an ancient relic of the First Realm, and such backwards thinking will not be promoted or enabled in this pocket of freedom. Enforcement of subchapter A will be carried out by Naomi Defense LLC, always be digging TM, for the lump sum of 16 ounces of muscle meat a day, accompanied by at least one other organ and a raw, free-range egg, or equivalent value of 8,300 satoshis, per day of contract fulfillment. B. At the request of the PAZNIA Secret Space Program, an appropriately sized piece of land will be excluded for the construction of a helipad and runway, as a special service to PAZNIA and executive stakeholders. Subchapter B, Definitions. B. For the purposes of this directive, the following definitions shall apply. The term PAZNIA Department of Transportation refers to the subdepartment of the PAZNIA Department of Freedom responsible for the movement of goods and PAZNIANs from place to place and the various means by which such movement is accomplished. Subchapter C, Proposal and Purpose. C. Considering many Vonuans/PAZNIANs are nomadic, and since reliance upon centralized logistical services is silly, the PAZNIA Department of Transportation is heretofore created, as per subchapter A, above. The vision is for this to become the second realm delivery/logistical service, to replace the coercively funded variety, as well as similar, regulated white market services. The main task of the PAZNIA DOT, and of the like-created Telegram chat/group *, is to coordinate, transport, and deliver privately agreed-upon goods or material. The like-created Telegram chat/group has an additional responsibility of designing and structuring the framework of the PAZNIA DOT. Note, the aforementioned group is private and for vetted individuals only. Potential ideas include an anonymous/pseudonymous, i.e. privacy-centric, delivery job board to be hosted on the coming PAZNIA LBRY Freedom Box, seed and supply transport between homesteads, R&D on advanced transportation services/transportation methods, etc. Note, this is not an exhaustive list, just a few ideas to get the thinking going. Subchapter D, PAZNIA Department of Transportation Budget. D. In accordance with the Department of Freedom's Accounting Office, the Secretary of no state shall submit the appropriate documentation to the Strategic Director for the PAZNIA DOT to be included in the Coordinator's fiscal year 2021 budget request. Conclusion: join the network, get involved in the network or the planning for the PAZNIA Department of Transportation, join the PAZNIA Committee of Correspondence Telegram chat and start building your reputation in the second realm today. Alternatively, if you're already vetted, reach out, you know how to get in touch, and we'll get you added. Further planning will also ensue in person at events hosted here at the Free Republic. 2E. The PAZNIA Department of Education. Our mission: provide the knowledge and tools to learn anything, using the trivium and quadrivium as foundations, with the goal of empowering future generations with the resources necessary to thrive in the first or the second realm. The PAZNIA Department of Education was foisted into existence, thanks to the initiative of HBO star, Jason Henza, the anarchists. The objective is to come up with a curriculum, or curricula, for the PAZNIA network, and begin to accumulate as many homeschooling/unschooling resources as we can. Planning and discussion has taken place in the Telegram Committee of Correspondence, and a CryptPad document is located at paznia.com/education for those looking to contribute ideas. Further, I added some 50+ GB of homeschooling resources to the local PAZNIA LBRY, see below. The DOE is definitely in its infancy, but progress has begun. Roadmap and goals, crowdsource ideas, resources, and more on the aforementioned CryptPad document, to create a comprehensive curriculum on self-liberation, incorporating the trivium and the quadrivium, teaching current and future generations how to learn anything, expose anyone interested, children, adults pursuing lifetime learning, etc., to a wide array of perspectives not found in first-realm schooling. Real history, real science, real finance/economics, Vonu/self-liberation strategy and tactics, etc. When V1 of the PAZNIA homeschooling/unschooling curriculum is finalized, create digital modules, resources, etc. to be utilized and beta tested. We are still seeking the director/head of our Department of Education an opportunity to take on the critically important task at hand. Email coordinator@PAZNIA.com if this is of interest. 2F. The PAZNIA Secret Space Program. A document by the coordinator of PAZNIA in association with the local Committee of Safety on September 26, 2020. PAZNIA Space Directive 3 of September 26, 2020. Section 1. Introduction. Following the establishment of the PAZNIA Secret Seasteading Program, the next logical step is to set our eyes and intentions to the stars. The ancients didn't intricately study and construct their societies/worlds to be in alignment with the heavens for no reason. The sky clock is an immutable ledger of humanity's past here on Earth, and everything is integrated, meaning the energies of the planets and universe can be harnessed and even exalted. We live in an electrical universe of abundance, and the main task of the P.A.Z.NIA SSP is to enable Veritas and the overarching second realm to thrive in accordance with these truths. Section 2. Definitions. For the purposes of this directive, the following definitions shall apply. The term PAZNIA Secret Space Program refers to the subdepartment of the PAZNIA Department of Freedom, the program tasked with the challenges laid out in Section 3 below. B. The term PAZNIA Secret Space Program refers to a PAZNIA department led by the lead astronaut, the strategic director of the Office of Calendar Management, and the Galactic Ambassador. Section 3. Proposal and Purpose. As enacted, the PAZNIA Secret Space Program, A, would facilitate the construction of a HQ and acquisition of a 3D printer plus associated tools, printer plastic, etc. This will permit the launch of a workshop/factory, and our prime goal of the 3D prototyping of wheelchairs for chickens with broken legs. If we have the tools to do it, it's our duty. No chicken left behind. Engineering assistance may need to be contracted. B. The training and initiation of fellow astronauts into the SSP, in accordance with existing PAZNIA code. C. The investigation into breakthrough/alternative energy devices harnessing the electrical and magnetic nature of our universe, and the planning for the equitable distribution across the agora. D. Head of Bird Security, Naomi Defense LLC, is permitted 16 ounces of raw meat per space adventure. Section 4. PAZNIA Secret Space Program Budget. In accordance with the Department of Freedom's Accounting Office, the Secretary of No State shall submit to the Strategic Director of the Office of Calendar Management for the PAZNIA Space Force to be included in the Coordinator's fiscal year 2021 budget request. Further explained, the greatest discovery and the greatest cover-up of the 20th century was indeed zero-point energy. This discovery was made by major U.S. aerospace companies in the 1950s, and discovered by the Nazis/Third Reich in Germany around the time of the Second World War. This project was called Die Glocke, or the bell, named after the shape of the device. This discovery allows for essentially unlimited free energy, but it has been hidden away behind the trade secrets protections of major corporations. Obviously, for control, but also due to the fact that, much like with nuclear energy, you get nuclear weapons. Likewise, when you acquire zero-point energy, you get a weapon wherein a coffee cup's worth is enough to evaporate all the oceans on Earth. Obviously, if the servile society can't overcome the more basic and less destructive elements of coercion, like fraud, theft, etc., these non-player characters cannot be trusted with technologies such as these. So, whether it's ZPE or something like Sky Huddleston's upscaled and more powerful Burke engine, wherein a parking lot of these things could afford a small community a small nuclear power plant's worth of power, it would be wise to use the PAZNIA network as a much safer way to roll out this technology as it becomes available. This would also give us some much-needed and much-deserved advantages over the coercive first realm. Think off-grid Bitcoin/Monero mining, easy/cheap energy, enabling off-grid living in isolated, low-coercion areas like Alaska, or just good OL entrepreneurial opportunities. The PAZNIA SSP will also be doing R&D into other possibilities, such as a Brown's gas-powered Lord's pump and crystal power cells, to name a couple. 2G. The PAZNIA Department of Technology. Technology is moving forward at an ever-increasing speed. Babylon will continue to build out its infrastructure of surveillance and control, but as a disparate network, we can and need to use these tools for defense, for liberation, and for independence. This is the goal of the PAZNIA Department of Technology. Communications, Simplex is the current, working solutions, that is, a self-hosted simplex relay at Veritas, accessible to anyone, adding one extra layer of uncensorability. On a local level, a self-liberator could create a new identity, and only connect to our local relay, and we'd have a local communications network across the homestead. For local applications, and even potential larger-reach mesh networks, R&D has begun into LoRa/Meshtastic sort of systems. These low-power devices, powered by solar, could enable a lot in the range of our own communications network, outside of internet, cellular, etc. Hugely powerful, and even beyond PAZNIA, this is a major area of focus for folks interested in freedom. Finance, living in a highly digital world, as well as being a dispersed network, we have to have privacy-friendly options to transact value. On the Ghost server here at Veritas, via virtual machines running StartOS, Bitcoin and Monero full nodes are running, as well as a Bitcoin Lightning node. At the time this book goes to press, those are not ready for action, but at the very least, we're contributing to the networks. The idea is this: instead of connecting to a random Bitcoin node that's potentially operated by chain analysis, the enemies of privacy connect to PAZNIA nodes directly. Education/entertainment, the local PAZNIA LBRY is live and ready for self-liberators visiting Veritas. Currently, there are documentaries, books, homeschooling/unschooling resources, terabytes of movies and TV shows, music, podcasts, and more. This same LBRY vision will be accessible publicly at some point in the future, likely via PeerTube first, essentially, combining YouTube with torrents, and/or IPFS. More on the LBRY below. Artificial intelligence, so-called artificial intelligence, is here, whether we like it or not. And it's not going away. So, instead of being left behind, or maybe worse, left to the privacy-hating AI tools of Babylon, we have begun looking into self-hosted AI. At a base level, this technology has major time-saving capabilities, from text to speech, or vice versa, organizing bullet point notes into coherent creations, AI-generated art, etc. There are other highly interesting possibilities, such as a Rayo GPT, inputting every single article, book, publications, letter, etc. into AI, and having the ghost of Rayo there to ask questions to. Finally, a moment should be spent on our PAZNIA Second Realm assemblies, most of which have been meetings of our Department of Technology. From highly dense discussions between experts like Brian Sovereign, Dave from Start9, Shamin Biconic, and more, we go extremely deep into exploring the sea of vast solutions ahead of us. If you're interested in checking these out, just visit vonupodcast.com and search for Department of Technology at the top of the page. 2H, the PAZNIA General Bitcoin Fund. A huge thanks is owed to Josiah Warren, a fellow PAZNIan, who came up with and initially funded the PAZNIA General Bitcoin Fund for voluntary mutual aid. The following are images of the document he wrote, laying out the details of the fund. PAZNIA General Fund, official founding document. Section I, Purpose/Description. The P.A.Z.NIA General Fund is established for any citizen of P.A.Z.NIA for the purposes of furthering an individual's goals or toward that individual's utilizing the fund in order to further the cause of liberation and self-liberation for others. Section 2, Creation of the Fund. The P.A.Z.NIA General Fund, the fund, will be set up on a private, newly created Bitcoin, BTC, address and will be funded with the initial sum equivalent to $1,000, 1,000 USSA dollars at the time of funding. Section 3. Requirements to utilize said fund. The fund shall be established and shall be in effect until the balance of the fund reaches 0.00 or near 0.00 BTC, upon which time the fund will close after a period of no less than 45 days. B. An inquirer who wishes to seek invasion of the fund must be a citizen and/or contributor to P.A.Z.NIA and must present proof of citizenship, e.g. P.A.Z.NIA passport, P.A.Z.NIA flag, P.A.Z.NIA coin. C. Some examples of a valid and reasonable request from the fund are, but not limited to, furthering the cause of Vonu and self-liberation. An individual, I, wishes to utilize the fund in order to plant a garden on his/her land. 2. Needs to temporarily fund a food supply. 3. Any equipment needed to construct mesh networks or further the cause of crypto-anarchy. 4. Is destitute and needs money from the fund or without it risks rejoining the servile society. V. Needs to cover upfront costs of publishing a liberty-oriented book or pamphlet through Liberty Under Attack Publications, LUA Pub. 6. Wants to use the funds for black or gray market activities. 7. Needs to protect him/herself and his/her family by utilizing the fund to purchase protection. 8. Is using the fund to culture jam first realm culture and/or create new culture throughout the P.A.Z.NIA and P.A.Z. 9. A P.A.Z.NIA citizen and/or a family member of a P.A.Z.NIA citizen is captured and needs funds for release and/or legal defense. Section 4. Inquiries for invasion of the fund. All inquiries will be considered on a first-hand basis and must be in writing and encrypted. Use of pseudonyms are encouraged. The creator of the fund reserves all rights to the fund and has the right to decline funding for any reason. Inquiries can be submitted to josiah.warren@protonmail.com and will be answered as soon as possible. The inquiry must contain I. The individual's pseudonym. 2. A brief description of need for the funds. 3. The exact amount needed. 4. If items are being purchased, a manifest and/or invoice. V. A valid and confirmed Bitcoin, BTC, address not originating from an exchange or Coinbase. Section V. Prohibited uses of the fund. Abuse of said fund. The fund shall not be used to fund any state activities, including but not limited to I. Payment of taxes. 2. Purchase of materials that support law enforcement, military, or any welfare warfare schemes cooked up by state actors. 3. Funding political crusades in any way, either indirectly or directly. 4. Pro-servile society first realm propaganda. V. Creation of a culture of dependence on any individual. This is not a welfare program or a crutch. Any funds received from the fund are considered a gift. Any citizen abuse of the fund will be dealt with in a respectful manner and in accordance with the P.A.Z.NIA Constitution and within the non-aggression principle, NAP. Any abuse or use of funds that may be considered to be prohibited or unreasonable or not adhering to values of P.A.Z.NIA and Vonu will be required to pay back the fund with a 20% penalty. Section 6. Donations to the fund. Any citizen can make a donation to the fund by inquiring to the fund's creator at josiah.warren@protonmail.com. Any funds given will be irreversible once they are given. Such funds will become part of the fund and utilized in a responsible manner in accordance with fund principles outlined above. The fund will be created/funded on or around the month of February 2021. Signed, Josiah Warren. And for many, the general fund has been of crucial necessity. Donations have been made to political prisoner funds, such as SW and TDEV of Samurai Wallet. Vonu podcast co-host, Kyle Reardon, called on the fund and the generosity of self-liberators to help him through a terribly tough situation, and funds have been contributed to a PAZNIA in the eastern USSA to help develop a food self-sufficiency project on their homestead, to name a few. Please do consider making a donation to the fund, or if you're a self-liberator needing some assistance, do reach out. 2. The PAZNIA Monero Department. With the arrest and indictment of the developers of Samurai Wallet, the only real project in Bitcoin privacy, the future of Bitcoin doesn't look great, at least in terms of routing around the first realm. Additionally, Bitcoin is being more and more ingrained within that society, with the majority of freedom-minded Bitcoiners abandoning principles, and the vision of Bitcoin only caring about price. For that reason, we launched the PAZNIA Monero Department, essentially a clone of the Bitcoin General Fund, to begin focus on infrastructure here too. Rather than pursuing Bitcoin mining, efforts will likely be shifted towards mining on the XMR network. The guidelines and stipulations are the same as for the General Fund. For more information or to donate, visit PAZNIA.com/Monero or use the QR code below. 2J. The PAZNIA Department of Health and Wellness. Almost regardless of where one finds themselves in the world at this moment in time, the biggest coercer is indeed Babylon Pharmaceuticals. And despite what the pharma quacks might say or want you to perceive, allopathic medicine is a rather new phenomenon in the grand scheme of humanity. Even if a self-liberator, for some reason, desired a Babylon pharmaceutical poison, the barriers to dash care will likely continue to get more coercive in the future, if the price for entry isn't already too high. As an example, experimental gene therapy with long-standing consequences could be a required precursor to a basic doctor's visit. But let's get back to fundamentals here. If any individual in question would simply, 1. Stop chronically poisoning themselves with toxic food, water, propaganda, etc., and 2. Fix nutritional deficiencies, the vast majority of so-called disease would disappear, in my humble opinion and with much supporting evidence. And while the above two things really are the best prevention and methods to restore balance in the body, Babylon Pharmaceuticals has done a number to many, including myself, with the severe overprescription of antibiotics and injectable poisons, and just pharma treatments more generally. Sometimes, additional modalities and methodologies are necessary to restore said balance, such as red light therapy, the AquaCure Brown's gas/molecular hydrogen electrolyzer, ozone therapy machines/generators, electrical/magnetic healing devices, youth hormones, DHEA, pregnenolone, and progesterone, thyroid hormone, T3/T4, and in general, the realm of bioenergetics inspired by the late, great Dr. Ray Peat. One function I foresee of PAZNIA is that it's a health cooperative of sorts, wherein stakeholders will have access to the above, as we are able to obtain them. Much like the bulk seed purchasing, Veritas, and other nodes, could buy and store large quantities of critically important remedies like DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide, shilajit, fulvic and humic acid, nutritional/vitamin supplements, vitamin C, D3, K2, zinc/copper, etc. This private membership setup, not serving the general public, would also provide another layer of protection from the coercers. Further, we also envision healing retreats, both with and without the use of entheogens. These could include group meditations, utilizing the scientifically verifiable tool of focused intention, to heal certain diseases/imbalances, entheogen-specific expeditions with our spiritual liaison, aura, and possibilities unforeseeable at this present time. Lastly, it's worth noting that Aura's apothecary is already open and helping many here at the Free Republic of PAZNIA. You can check out her products by visiting libertyunderattack.com/aura, if you like. Some of her products include comfrey, grown at Veritas, jewelweed, and black drawing salves, as well as her extremely popular, all-natural insect/mosquito repellent. Notable features at the PAZNIA Department of Wellness at Veritas. High-quality animal nutrition, corn and soy-free fed lambs, goats, chickens, and turkeys. Lowest PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid content, as currently possible. Red light therapy, artificial blue light rampant in technology and lighting is disrupting our circadian rhythm. Red light therapy is a cheap, easy, and also, quite miraculous therapy. Aura's apothecary, Aura's handcrafted creations, some formulations made with medicines grown here at Veritas. Medicinal mushroom foraging, certain mushrooms, whether medicinal, i.e. tea, spiritual, or culinary, have some amazing properties. Rife frequency healing, as bioelectric beings, frequency can serve to put us in a state of imbalance, or once of balance. This is a focus on the latter. Dr. Ray Peat focused philosophy, in a world of hypothyroid-induced chronic fatigue, aka low metabolism, focusing on youth hormones, i.e. pregnenolone, progesterone, thyroid hormone, T3/T4, aspirin, and many other aspects already mentioned above. Other focuses include Rosicrucian spiritual sciences, homeopathics, and the use of dimethyl sulfoxide, DMSO, as a carrier into cells and all-around miraculous healer. 2K, the PAZNIA Church of Self-Liberation, our nature sanctuary. A hypothesis I'm currently throwing around my head is that the more one becomes disconnected from nature, source, creator, etc., the worse state of health they will find themselves in. Taking into account Dr. Barlando's conclusion that DNA is merely a dual impedance antenna connecting us to source, when said connection is quelled or suppressed, interference occurs within our bioelectric bodies, just as would happen with conflicting radio signals. In Western medicine, this phenomenon is described as the shortening of mitochondrial telomeres and is associated with rapid aging. And when individuals make lifestyle changes, the process reverses, and the telomeres uncoil, rekindling the aforementioned interfered connection. I would also posit that another critical factor at play is, as mentioned earlier, the Servile Society's constant desire to disconnect mankind from nature and its cycles. This is explicit when examining the total deception of the Gregorian calendar, as well as daylight savings time. I say of all that to introduce probably the main attraction to the Free Republic, our Church of Self-Liberation, our nature sanctuary. While vestiges of the centralized, fascist electric grid exist here, as they do really everywhere, we remain far out in the wilderness, away from these detrimental influences. And even then, tower busters and orgone cannons work great at neutralizing those negative radiative effects. Attractions in our Church of Self-Liberation include ample selections for meditation or contemplation, lots of wilderness for hiking, creeks and ponds for relaxing and therapeutic swims, a large supply of natural forages, ranging from mushrooms and blackberries to sassafras, and much more in between, and no light pollution, giving PAZNIANs an uninhibited view of the heavens above. 2L, the PAZNIA LBRY. Some attention has been given to the LBRYs in the Department of Technology section above, but more details might be helpful. Starting with the local LBRY, any visitor to Veritas that is connected to our Wi-Fi will have access to it, it being a private Nextcloud server. The link to visit is paznia.com/LBRY, or the Self-Liberator can download the Nextcloud app, scan the QR code, and have access through there. Since I use VPNs 100% of the time, I personally prefer the Nextcloud app, as split tunneling around the VPN is rather easy via something like Mullvad, safer, too. The only real improvements on the local side are a few mini-routers located strategically around the homestead to increase distance and reliability, as well as a bigger external hard drive. On the other hand, the public PAZNIA LBRY is very much still theoretical, though the solutions, we think, have been found. I inquired to a few close colleagues about hosting a Nextcloud server through a public domain, lbry.paznia.com, and sending a few terabyte hard drive. Even with gigabyte connections, centralized streaming and downloading require a lot of bandwidth, and are not the optimal, decentralized solution. The cost is ridiculous too. That brings us to PeerTube, essentially putting YouTube channels onto torrents with seeders. This looks like a really beautiful solution, with even potential on-ramps to IPFS in the future. It's just, as with most of the Department of Technology projects, the learning curve is immense and would take a lot of time for me to figure out. I've put out the call for anyone willing to help, and am still hopeful that will come. Thinking forward, once the PAZNIA PeerTube instance is live, there should be implementations directly onto the PAZNIA site, i.e., recall lbry.paznia.com above. Also, with apps like GrayJ, which pull many feeds, YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, PeerTube, etc., connecting to the LBRY would be seamless. Further, from the launch, we'll have multiple seeders throughout the world, and hopefully always more coming on board. Truly, a most unfuckwithable library of Alexandria. Let's make it happen. 2M, the PAZNIA Free Press. The PAZNIA Free Press is the operator of the PAZNIA radio network, the now best source for all things PAZNIA, and all things self-liberation. Currently streaming to YouTube and Odyssey, with more destinations forthcoming, the goal is to create an entertaining, educational, and more continuous source of content from these sorts of perspectives. The current vision is to aim for one broadcast a week initially, achieving daily broadcasts with daily themes, list below plus more, and eventually, 24/7 streaming, with live shows, guest hosts, and more. The options are truly endless. Sacred Sundays, a day of focus on mental and spiritual liberation. Music Mondays, Freedom Music Blocks, Metal Mondays, etc. Free Energy Fridays, Breakthrough Energy, Fringe Science, Electric Universe, and related miscellaneous topics. Self-Defense Saturday, Physical Self-Defense and Digital Self-Defense. The eventual goal is a bit more radical. Back in the day, I ran a pirate AM/FM station for a short time. There was nothing cooler than driving home from work and tuning into Ben Stone or the Vonu podcast, along with the few other folks that stumbled across the station. Eventually, some money could be allocated towards a handful of AM/FM radio transmitters, and donated to areas across the world, offering the PAZNIA radio network on AM/FM stations anywhere. Maybe we'll take over the shortwave radios too. Furthermore, the PAZNIA Free Press promotes and features the highest quality publications, ranging from strategy guides, old Vonu zines, all the way to agorist and anarchist fiction. Similar to culture jamming above, this is a way to create and express, and to use fiction as a medium to show what is possible. It's a way to create our own culture, our own entertainment that is empowering, liberating, and uplifting. Classic examples are the aforementioned Second Realm book on strategy, but modern agorist/anarchist fiction from contemporary self-liberators are worth a mention. #Agora by Anonymous, the Brushfire series by Matthew Wojtecki, the Evolution trilogy by Todd Borhos, Second Realm anthology. That leaves movies and music. Alongside Night, the J. Neil Schulman book has a movie, but it's mediocre and kinda awkward at best. The first Atlas Shrugged movie was pretty decent, but the rest, and the first, could be done a lot better. Firefly, the old TV series, is touted as one of the most libertarian science fiction shows. I have it downloaded to the LBRY, but haven't finished it in its entirety yet. Point is, the movie/TV portion of this is lacking, but I think that tide will turn with AI and coming technology. The ability to produce a Hollywood-quality movie with some $10,000 worth of investment is near. The music has always been here. From Kadhar chants, they were essentially exterminated by the state in the 1300s, to Triumph's Fight the Good Fight, 1981, up to Affiant's incredible We the Machines, 2012, and now, to the incredible acts of Richard Greaser, the Bitcoin Bugle. Here at Veritas, we strive to bring talented and like-minded acts to help facilitate this burgeoning second realm culture, to provide our own alternatives for entertainment. Chapter 3, PAZNIA Services and Marketplaces. If there's one page to bookmark from the PAZNIA site, it's the one highlighting our services and marketplaces, PAZNIA.com/services. Some links are for private members only, others are available to anyone, and there's much more to be added here in the future. The first item of note is the private, vetted PAZNIA map and directory, available to an initial set of founding SDA holders of the PAZNIA network. These folks have access to a map/directory of self-sufficient homesteads, PAZNIA BNB sites, city squat spots, local health food stores/farms, guerrilla gardening plots, and more coming, things like mail forwarding services, residency assistance, etc. Next is P.A.Z.NIA list, the Craigslist of the second realm. Categories include arbitration and security, cryptoanarchy, for sale, health and wellness, help wanted, homestead/contractor services, looking for work, the Department of Transportation, the PAZNIA Seed Exchange, and proxy merchant services. There are quite a few posts up already. Visit PAZNIA.com/list, check them out, and make your own today. Chapter 4, VonuFest and other events at the Free Republic. While staying connected in the digital realms are a necessity today, so are regular meetings and gatherings in physical space and time. For the most part, the digital helps to facilitate the physical, since these two areas of the human experience are essentially inextricable. So, that is a foundation of PAZNIA, something we strive to offer at Veritas at least a handful of times a year formally, though vetted self-liberators are welcome to visit whenever. These formal gatherings typically align with statist holidays, but are reappropriated to freedom holidays. This will be evident in the list below. Spring gathering, usually around the spring equinox, the true New Year. Voluntarism Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend typically. Anarchy Day weekend, 4th of July. Agorism Day weekend gathering, Labor Day weekend. Vonu Fest Ethical Enclave Day, Thanksgiving celebration. Though, these events are not open to the general public. All self-liberators must be vetted, either by me personally, or someone already part of the PAZNIA network. In these wondrous gatherings, self-liberators still in transition from the first to second realm can enjoy time our agora, spending time with, learning from, and building with others of like mind. Not only is this about fun, but we strive to offer numerous self-liberational activities for those looking to expand their skill sets. As some examples, the assembling and testing out of a 3D printer, self-defense training with our own Pat Henry, learning about our unique horticulture setups across Veritas, ranging from electroculture opportunities, learning how to process lambs and or chickens, experiencing and learning about the many unique offerings via our wellness center, mushroom identification and foraging hikes, rhino/four-wheeler rides through the wondrous wilderness that is our nature sanctuary, and much, much more. Interested in getting vetted and coming out to Veritas sometime? Join one of our committees of correspondence, introduce yourself, and start building your reputation. Please also reach out to Coordinator Rayo to see if there's an individual we both know in common that would vouch for you as a non-coercer, coordinator@PAZNIA.com. Alternatively, we usually make it out to the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest in Michigan, and might work Mid-Fest into the future. Come meet us at one of these public events to expedite the vetting process. Overhearing the conversations in one of our clubs irritates the neophyte. Words and customs that are unknown in the filth of the first realm, and an occasional dispute spiced with curse words like statist, stotzy, or parasite. Nevertheless, the newcomer will be welcomed and taught, and given opportunity to prove himself should he show willingness and skill. However, not all of us live here all the time. Many lead a double life with only an occasional visit to our markets where they are greeted with their pseudonyms. Others operate their business half a day in the first realm, and open shop in the second after sunset. Still others are true ghosts to the first realm, having no footprint there except for traveling through it from one autonomous zone to another, some of them having perfected their livelihoods in our world, but others that just cannot stand the shallowness of the other side anymore. We are tribes of mind and soul, not defined by nation or race but by thought and substance. We are everywhere, and we are here to stay. Second Realm, Book on Strategy. Chapter 5, the PAZNIA Network. To try and paint a picture of the possibilities here, let's participate in a little thought experiment. Fast forward to PAZNIA Year 10, 2030. The public map and directory are not only available, but include 42 self-sufficient homesteads, 25 city squat spots, 7 guerrilla gardening plots, and even more regional homesteads to more efficiently facilitate trade. Let's also say the full vision of the PAZNIA Department of Transportation is in effect, and we have our own fleet app, much like the First Realm alternative does, and that we also have a dedicated Second Realm fleet of drivers to connect these disparate network nodes. One of the hardest areas to overcome in the pursuit of self-liberation is financial/economic. That is, either saving up enough money where a job becomes optional, or discovering/building up different income streams. If there's any way that we can expedite and assist in the transition from first to second realm, we must do it. Tom Marshall, hypothetical in this case, could begin to chart out trade routes and opportunities found on the map and directory, and might even plan on stopping at a guerrilla gardening plot or two to harvest some food. Or maybe to plant some more seeds for those coming after. Passing through self-sufficient homesteads, Mr. Marshall acquires most, if not all, of his food, water, and other needs, almost entirely not reliant upon the First Realm grocery stores or services. For those that he can't acquire in the Second Realm, he consults the map/directory again, and finds a fellow self-liberator offering proxy merchant services in Chicago. Not only can Tom have a nice, safe spot to sleep in a warm shower, but Warren will run a couple errands for him and serve as a mail drop for some deliveries Tom had incoming for a small fee. Tommy, then, might hit up a second realm no-tell, that is, a nondescript empty house, rented pseudonymously, paid for via Monero, and unlocked via ghost phone. An internal reputation systems protects both renter and rentee. And finally, to conclude this thought experiment, Tom would like to visit some friends down in Ecuador. He returns to the wondrous map/directory to find a second realm private jet service leaving in 2 weeks for South America, putting him near enough to his destination. And without breaking the bank. He finds a freedom festival happening in the meantime, after a week and a half in the wilderness, soaking up the second realm with fellow self-liberators. Tom concludes this leg of his journey and sets his sights for the southern border. Such a network offers other advantages: a second realm underground railroad for those needing protection or escape, i.e. a network of safe houses. Van nomads could offer offline data mule services, downloading communications/data/etc. when leaving a homestead, and delivering it to another. Mail forwarding and permanent mailbox services could enable entrepreneurial opportunities for the offering self-liberator, and more options for the consumer in choosing residence and exercising other legal interstices. The stakeholder model. Beyond our public, free services, the PAZNIA network stakeholder model employed is much like that of a cooperative or a private membership association, only, ours isn't necessarily local, but worldwide. It's worth noting, these prices will go up in the future when we expand to our Tier 3 of fundraising. For current stakeholders, new tiers are 1/2 price. Honorary stakeholder memberships are available to anyone that visits the website. They are a way to gain access to some perks and benefits of the network, as well as contribute to the second realm, but not to areas that could degrade the safety or security of the network. $3 donation, stakeholder ID card, $55 donation, PAZNIA sticker, ID card, and digital self-liberation bundle from Liberty Under Attack Publications, $99 donation, stickers, ID card, digital self-liberation bundle, and PAZNIA flag, $333 donation, all of the above plus an official PAZNIA passport. Our founding stakeholder memberships are usually purchased when folks visit Veritas, but they are available to any vetted self-liberator. The benefits and perks are much greater here, and involve some participation in the building out of infrastructure. Discounts to other businesses/hustles in the Agora, access to the second realm network of non-coercers, access to the PAZNIA Department of Health and Wellness, healing devices and treatments. PAZNIA flag, ID, PAZNIA beach towel, and PAZNIA passport, access to the PAZNIA map and directory, be a part of the alternative/decentralized energy rollout beta test/contribute to the building of various infrastructure projects, i.e. the PAZNIA library, ghost system, etc. Lifetime 25% discount to Liberty Under Attack Publications and goods/services at PAZNIA, meat, eggs, dairy, chicks, etc. Early access to purchase items available at Veritas. Have questions? Looking to barter? We're always open to other possibilities. Again, just email coordinator@rayo.com. Chapter 6, The Coming Intentional Community. Back in year 0, 2020, when the vision of PAZNIA first came to me, the prospects for my desired intentional community were purely theoretical, not really developed in any real sense. Sure, I suppose there was 5 years of interactions and developing relationships with the core group of folks I invited to the first Vonu Fest. We'd all been going to the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest in Michigan for a long while, me since 2015. But still, relocating one's life is usually not easy, so it still seemed rather unlikely. Then my wonderful free wife Aura moved here in 2021, and something like 20 freedom gatherings have taken place here since, including 5 Vonu Fests. In that time frame, there is now one couple interested in constructing a wilderness structure, 1 individual, and 1 family. That's not to mention we've had a van nomad select Veritas as one of his home bases where he spends most of the year, and has, for the past couple years. One option we've been mentioning to folks is the Amish sheds that are everywhere around here. With some work, it would be rather easy to have a small, self-contained, comfortable off-grid tiny house shed. There would be room for a good-sized garden and plenty of opportunities to help around the homestead, which is almost more needed than money, i.e. rent, now. And when the nomads decide to travel elsewhere, they can rent it out as a PAZNIA B&B while they're gone. These options are still available to the right, vetted self-liberator. Needless to say, I'm extremely happy with the progress over the past 5 years and that this far-out possibility is actually coming into fruition. Here's to looking back come year 10. Chapter 7, Get Involved, Join the Second Realm. First and foremost, join us in our various committee of correspondences. If you're not super tech-savvy or are new to the realm of encrypted apps, Telegram is a good enough start, t.me/PAZNIAchat. If you'd like to join us in what more resembles the second realm, Simplex is our current go-to platform. The encryption is rock solid, there are no phone numbers/identities attached, and messages are routed through many relays, offering censorship resistance. Scan QR code below. Wherever you join, please consider an introductory post. Let us know how you found PAZNIA, a bit into your path here, your current, or desired, liberated lifestyle, and whatever else you like. Second, consider becoming a SDA holder. Not only do you get some great perks and benefits, but it greatly helps us in funding the expansion of the second realm, of the PAZNIA network. After getting your feet wet in the second realm, maybe you want to become a bigger part of the network? This would entail things like adding your homestead to the vetted map and directory, a van nomad squat spot, if you had one, or whatever other opportunity that could be of value to a traveling self-liberator. If this sounds like you, please visit PAZNIA.com/join and fill out the form. Or maybe you're a nomad, and are looking for access to all that the PAZNIA network has to offer? In this case, visit PAZNIA.com/join too and fill out the form. Let us know what you're interested in, and anything you're able to offer. Get vetted and come out to an event at Veritas. There are bigger freedom festivals, like the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest and Midfest. There's something about a tight-knit community of radical self-liberators who are already building liberated lifestyles. And for us all to be in the same place, it's truly magical. It's truly the only way to experience the second realm, in my opinion. Maybe you've got some technical/developer skills? If so, consider offering assistance in setting up the public PAZNIA LBRY on PeerTube, run Bitcoin/Monero nodes for folks in the network to connect to, help get the PAZNIA website set up on Tor. To name a few available projects. One other possibility, amongst a sea of them. Contribute to the development of the PAZNIA Department of Education. Much of this discussion has taken place in the Telegram chat, but a document is available for your submissions and contributions at PAZNIA.com/education. And finally, are you planning to attend a lot of freedom festivals, Monero conferences, privacy conferences, etc.? Become a PAZNIA ambassador. We'd get you set up with some merchandise and promotional material, and you would preach the good word of PAZNIA to anyone who will hear it. Other ideas? Just reach out, coordinator@PAZNIA.com. Chapter 8, in closing. While I do get impatient at times about the seemingly slow development of the second realm, I have to remind myself that all good things take time, and the amount of work to be done is expansive. I mean, hell, we're talking about the complete rebuilding of society. That, and taking a step back, it's easy to see how many important connections, developments, and events really transpired in just the past 4.5 years. The right folks are finding the PAZNIA network and real headway is being made. And with the publication and release of this book, the vision of what we can build together is hopefully clearer. So much so, that you're ready to get involved, whatever that means for you and yours. I'll end with one of the most impactful quotes from my posthumous mentor, Bill Cooper. Like it or not, everything is changing. The result will be the most wonderful experience in the history of man or the most horrible enslavement you can imagine. Be active or abdicate. The future is in your hands. Chapter 9, Freedom is Yours for the Seizing. By J.E.T., May 1966 Innovator. So you want to be free? Then become free. All of the freedom is yours which you are able to seize. How does one seize freedom? By avoiding, evading, escaping, discouraging, overpowering, destroying, or otherwise frustrating anyone who initiates force or threat of force against you. But the oppressors ignore my pleas for freedom, you complain. Do you expect them to set you free? As you yourself point out, your oppressors have morals which would shame a beast of the forests. So long as you obey all their rules, no matter how onerous, and pay all their taxes, no matter how burdensome, why should they? And the oppressors dupe my neighbors, who are confused, unaware, and apathetic, you protest. Do you expect them not to deceive? The herdsman can milk only tame cows, the tyrant can drive only submissive slaves. We must overturn the oppressors, some of you proclaim, and rule wisely and justly in their place. Then go do it, if you can. But don't be surprised when the oppressors stampede their bewildered subjects against you. We must educate, teach increasing numbers our values and ideas, others of you shout. And someday evil will be banished from the earth. But as even you admit in your more reflective moments, this will take time, much time. So how shall you live the only life you will ever have? And how many followers can you attract and hold if you offer only visions of a paradise for their great-grandchildren? I do want freedom, you cry. But there is no way to get it now, no chance to elect, no means to revolt, and no place to go. I reply, if you want freedom, seize it. But my oppressors are organized into a powerful state, you object. They have thousands of agents and millions of police. However, each of the state's minions has only the same 2 eyes, the same 2 hands, and usually not so much brains as you or I. They cannot be everywhere, they cannot see everything. But they will collect a tax on my earnings, you protest. Only if you are so craven as to hand it over. Discover ways to avoid their extortions, trade with those who practice freedom. Or be a gypsy who sells, and flees. But they will confiscate my property, you quaver. Only if you are so foolish as to lead them to it. Convert your wealth to forms you can conceal. And rent your shops and homes, or mortgage them to the hilt. But they will throw me in jail, you whimper. Only if you are so careless as to stumble over them, they who have trouble apprehending morons and psychopaths. Make yourself hard to find. But that is too much trouble, you wail. I would rather follow their rules and pay their taxes, lick their boots and hone their axes, do everything they demand, and maybe, oh maybe, they will leave me alone just a little. Then tag along with the sheep to slaughter, you who expect freedom on a silver platter. For how long can you appease the tyrant who will demand more and more, until he has you? And what do we know of this utopia that some of you dream of? In every land, of which we hear, there are some who covet the lives and creations of others, predators who rob and enslave the weak, the foolish, and the cowardly. Sometimes the predators are alone, and slink about as criminals. So the free men go like tigers, armed and ready for self-defense. Sometimes the predators join together, and stalk about as rulers. So the free men go like foxes, inconspicuous and ready to hide. Occasionally the free men ally to put down the predators. But sometimes their forces tend to become slavers and looters in return. However, in almost any land, those with the courage to assert their freedom seldom need to fight or hide, for the predators live off the easy prey. But this will pass, you say to me, for now, at last I have the key, the elixir for liberty, for the first time in history. And once sufficient numbers see. Well, maybe. But in the meantime, all of the freedom is yours which you are able to seize. About the author. P.A.Z.NIA II founded Liberty under attack in mid-2012 when he was just beginning his research into the nature of reality. He began with an adventure down the conspiratorial rabbit hole for a while, focusing primarily on the work of the late Milton William, Bill, Cooper. In February 2015, Shane started LUA Radio, which was one of his goals for quite a long time, and would prove to be the most critical step in his development personally, as well as the point of origination for the now real-world connections in the second realm, by getting connected with the Michigan Peace and Liberty Coalition via the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest. Not long after launching LUA Radio, he adopted the philosophy and ethics of voluntarism, and shifted his focus towards solutions to increase personal freedom in the here and now. This manifested in the freedom umbrella of direct action, the digitization of Rayo's, Vonu, the search for personal freedom, this book being another critical step. Naturally, in January 2017, he launched the Vonu podcast with Kyle Reardon, a podcast dedicated to promoting the philosophy of Vonu and developing the liberating strategy up into the modern day. This was about the time he began writing his first book, Vonu, A Strategy for Self-Liberation, and founded his publishing outfit, Liberty Under Attack Publications, which focuses on strategies and tactics for self-liberation, in addition to anarchist/agorist fiction. In addition to all laid out above, he currently resides on his 22-acre homestead in the Free Republic of PAZNIA with his free wife, Aura, raising his lambs, goats, and chickens, and publishing books and podcasts. He hopes to publish more of his own work soon.